Good afternoon. Thank you, Claude. Newsflash. I might as well break the news to you. From the start, the topic you voted to the number one of your priorities list this year is, can I have a drum roll? Artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. This summer, we asked our members, like we do every year, for the ICT topics that are close at heart to you. And many thanks for sharing these priorities with us and for sharing what you want Beltug to work on in the coming weeks and months. With an impressive 15% of our members base completing this survey, we know we are rolling out an action plan that fits each and every one of you. Some of you are experts in data protection. Others are security experts. Some of you work for a company that is active in Belgium, very nationally. Other organizations have a global focus. Some of you work for companies that are in the industrial world, in automotive, or in the services company, or in the public sector. When we create our working plan, we make sure that that is a plan of action that fits each and every one of you, that you all find inspiration and knowledge to share for the digitization within your companies. Now, you must be curious to the results of your efforts. I already mentioned artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the top 10 of your scores. And when you have a look at this list, and when you have a look at the complete action plan that you'll find in the back of the room and in a few days on our website, you'll see that the topics at hand, the topics you voted for, are very heterogeneous. There's a variety. And that's not a surprise, given the variety of challenges in your digitization. There is plenty to talk about within our Beltug activities. Zooming in on that action plan, there are 4 dominant domains. I already mentioned artificial intelligence. There's also security, obviously. There's data, and there's ICT architecture. And we have much more on our planning. There's 5G. Very high scores among the people that are responsible for telecommunications and infrastructure. There's IoT. There's a convergence between OT and IT, very popular in the industrial sector. There's privacy. And how about the elements of ESG that impact your digitization as well? You know, ESG, environmental, social, corporate governance, and vendor lifecycle management, and much more. I invite you, surely, take a look. Levi, can we zoom in on these 4 dominant domains?
Of course. Thank you very much, Anne. The first domain is indeed artificial intelligence. And in a way, it's a new kid on the block and also not, because artificial intelligence has been there for quite some time. But something has indeed changed. As a comparison, last year, it only stood at the middle of the ranking. And also, if we look at the results of the Belgian B2B ICT market study, we see that 37% of large organizations this year said they're not interested in artificial intelligence. Of course, the very sudden rise and adoption of generative AI and ChatGPT is the game changer. Beltug has already organized an event about it and published a paper. We focused on ChatGPT and listed what Beltug members are doing as their 10 best practices currently. And I've been told it's heading towards 100 downloads already. So this summer, you voted artificial intelligence as your number 1 and 2. The first one is IE integration into the IT environment. Actually, something really hands-on and probably something that is already happening right now. And the second one is about awareness and acceptable use of artificial intelligence. Of course, we want people to use the technology, but we don't want that sensitive data or business secrets are in the open. And there's actually also a third one. It is about AI governance as a way to make AI ethical and compliant. Beltug members, given the fact that AI is so much on your agenda, we decided to create one AI day. And so on the 22nd of February, we will have a day full of AI where we have user stories and have more information. So note it down. The second pillar is security. Well, it was like last year and the year before, and probably also next year. Security is here to stay with us. And just like last year, IT security strategy was the number 1 in terms of security, followed closely by IT architecture and with incident response. You are worried about a breach and you want to know what is happening in case of a breach. But the good thing about this list is that there are always new topics, and one of them is secure API usage. Did you know that we started a collaboration with the API community Belgium? Well, for this year, we will call again on them and tackle this topic together. It will be on the 12th of December. And another collaboration we will continue is the one with the CCB, the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium. We believe that such a collaboration benefits your security. And in that sense, I'm very happy to welcome them here. One concrete result of this collaboration is the new Safe on Web at Work service. I can talk a lot about it, but the CCB is the one who knows most, and they are here. The third pillar, is IT architecture. Cloud is a reality for you with its availability, its possibilities, but also with discussions around multiple clouds now, about security, about privacy. And so we will tackle getting control over this hybrid IT, another of your priorities. The second topic in this block is enterprise architecture mapping. It's a new topic that came in last year, and I have to say, I was following the session, a session that AI was starting. Then we heard Colruyt, for example, and Fluvius. I was flabbergasted. It was like a new language that I was learning. It was exotic, and it was even sexy. So, next one of this one is on the 30th of January. By the way, if I may go back to the survey that we did, some interesting things about Cloud First. You see here that you assess this on an individual basis most of the time. But then, in 2023, it is first locally as much as possible, and then Cloud First. And if you compare that with 2021, you see really that the trend has changed. Is it surprising? Well, probably not, given the discussions you have about where your sensitive data are stored and the fact that they're stored outside Europe. And also on that topic, I'm sure within the Privacy Council, there will be more discussions, or should I say sometimes a circus, unfortunately. Talking about data, data is the fourth pillar, and we will bring you 2 sessions on data. One on data governance, data classification, and data loss prevention, and one on data architecture. And also, we will reach out again to the Belgian ISACA chapter and work together with them. This year, on IT governance, we did it with ISACA, and we were hosted by Delaware. And with their help, for the first time, we had a hybrid session at Beltug. So another step we took. Data is needed for training AI models. So you see, AI runs in all of the work program. Of course, you can only do that if the data you have are your own, which is actually one of our 11 FAIR principles to rebalance the relationship between large cloud providers and businesses. Actually, when we were discussing with our French, Dutch, and German colleagues, we noticed that all of us were confronted with the same practices, sometimes really harmful. And through applying the 11 principles, we believe that we can unleash the digital potential of Europe, and ultimately that benefits all. And with that positive message, we went to our policymakers, and it is paying off. We have the support of Petra de Sitter, for example, of Mathieu Michel, we believe, but also but also in the Data Act, the EU large companies will be protected against unfair practices, and there will be new clauses in to ensure switching of cloud providers. The European Commission has set up an expert group, and we're very proud that our president, Claude Rapoport, is one of those 20 experts. It is on B2B data sharing and cloud computing contracts. I actually recommend reading the document. I mean, of course, there's a lot of content, but it's also very funny because there are these cartoons which give you another view on the topic. At the back, during the cocktail, you can pick up a copy or just scan here the QR code, and that links you back to the Beltug website. And with that, Anne, a little bit of a commercial break for our 11 principles. Back to you.
Thanks, Levi. We already mentioned it at the start. These were the dominant domains throughout your priorities, but there's so much more. We see the first signs of interest in quantum computing among our members. And 5G, I already told you about that, low-code, SASE, IoT, and so on, and so on. And let's not forget about our management and our board. While the members of a board, they don't need an in-depth understanding of the technology, but they do need to understand the impact of an innovation, the consequences and the risks. An example of that is in the topics you chose. You want to know more about KPIs and metrics to report, also towards the board. And another example of that, and of IT not being at the sideline, merely supporting the business, but really being in the midst of the business, is a paper that we will publish for you in a few weeks. Actually, it's not a paper, it's more a mind map. You all know, it's not only the ICT department that purchases solutions for digitization, software as a service solutions. Marketing does, HR, accounting does. And we have created that mind map to guide that non-ICT user through that process with points of attention, like exit strategy, for instance, support they'll need, integration with existing systems, or data protection, security, really a wealth of information coming together in that one paper. Information we received from several members of our task forces, some on security, others on privacy, others on the procurement process. Keep an eye on your mailbox. You'll receive that paper very soon. Okay, all these highlights, and still we only discussed a handful of the topics that we will have on our agenda the coming weeks and months. As I said, take a look at the complete action plan. And let's have a quick look at our association and what is going on, which initiatives we take. This is an image you know. This is Beltug in a nutshell, the association that axes its activities around these 4 pillars through moments of knowledge sharing, exchanging best practices among peers, and pragmatical recommendations on our Beltug website. The association that represents your voice, one strong voice of the ICT decision maker towards policymakers, governments, regulators, and ICT providers. Key to us is that we take away the barriers you face in your digitization and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Today, we are a little over 2,200 people in the association, representing about 500 companies. 1,600 of these people are ICT decision makers, coming from banks, retailers, public institutions, pharmaceutical companies, industrial organizations, and so on, and so on. And we are growing, and that's important. The more companies we are, the louder our voice, and the more knowledge there is to share among our members. This is also an image you know by now, our baby Beltugs. This is our way of explaining our task forces to you. We have 8 task forces by now, 8 groups of like-minded peers having open discussions behind closed doors. We have a privacy council, a security task force, a vendor management task force, a CIO cabinet, a group that is focusing on the migration of SAP S/4HANA, a public affairs council, a public tendering task force, and our youngest one, the NIS2 sounding board. I'm sure you're all familiar with the NIS directive, a European directive on cybersecurity. And meanwhile, some of these babies have subgroups. And that kind of makes me wonder, are these subgroups grandchildren to Beltug? And what makes that the Beltug team? It's kind of a mind twist. In any case, the Security Task Force has an OT subgroup focusing on OT security. And the Privacy Council has a group of people working for international companies, and they only discuss international privacy issues. They are an invaluable source of inspiration for our activities and for our positions.
Talking about positions, you already said it, there is the voice of the consumer, there's the voice of the ICT industry, but there's also the voice of the users of digital technology. It is your voice we represent. And we don't do this alone. We do this together with the aforementioned associations of France, Germany, and the Netherlands. We divide the work and we keep each other updated. And it is, as said, paying off. One of the things that is also happening is that we're talking directly with the cloud providers. We take our members of the CIO cabinet with us and allow them to talk directly to decision makers within the cloud providers. It is again an example of what the result can be of this joint cooperation and of the policy work. Another thing we noticed is that there is a continuous need to keep you updated on the forthcoming legislation. There is a lot of legislation going on. There's a cascade coming from Europe, from the regional level, from the federal level. And so we're following that closely for you. Last year we started our Discover Regulatory sessions, and this year we will continue that. We'll talk first Data Act and the Gigabit Infrastructure Act. That's on the 4th of October. But I already mentioned the NIS implementation sounding board. Well, we will go on and have a session specially on this for the whole Beltug community on the 7th of February. And of course, the AI Act, which then brings me back to what you voted as your topic, your most important topic. You see, artificial intelligence is everywhere, and it runs through the whole association this year. And with that, Anne, I closed the loop. Back to you.
You did. And I see several of you taking your agendas. Why not grab the opportunity and take a note of our VIP evening in March, on the 18th of March, as usual, in the KBC auditorium, Havenlaan, next to Tour and Taxi. We see you at 6 o'clock in the evening. And more, next year's Summer Bar. That will be for the next working year. Yeah, well, we're on a roll. 16th of September, also a Monday, we meet each other at 4 o'clock. Let's have an inspiring year with each other, Beltug members, ladies and gentlemen. With the Beltug team, we go the extra mile to make sure you have activities set up for your inspiration, to facilitate the conversations among you, to publish pragmatical recommendations on our website, and to represent your voice towards different stakeholders. After all, technology, digitization, digital transformation, innovation, whatever you call it, it's always about people. So whenever you have questions, a suggestion, a story to share with your peers about successes, about failures, your stories that others can learn from, reach out to the Beltug team, let us know. Grab the phone, drop us a mail, come and see us. We are always glad we can help.